Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Snapmares Media. We are here at Deathmatch Downunder, and out come the Wolves. The show hasn't quite started yet, but you, sir, will be in one of the main matches here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gweedo, the UGWA Total Violence Heavyweight Champion. Sir, thank you very much for joining me. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty damn good. I was going to say, though, preparing for this interview was actually quite challenging. When you look online, there doesn't seem to be necessarily a huge amount of information for you. You're almost like a bit of a boogeyman almost. Like
yeah,
there's almost rumours and sort of like innuendo about this man, Gweedo. So I guess the first question is who is Gweedo in a nutshell to all the people watching at home?
He's an asshole.
That's a pretty good nutshell right there.
Yeah,
I like that. That's pretty good.
All in a nutshell.
Well, before you entered into wrestling professionally, what was it that actually made you fall in love with wrestling?
Oh man, just the pageantry, the athleticism, the look, the gimmicks, like it's everything about wrestling. I mean, it's just encapsulating and grasps you and just pulls you in.
Was there any particular promotions or any particular wrestlers that you were particularly fond of?
Oh, I was always into like Ravishing Rick Rude and all the bad guys. You know, I've always been a bad guy type of person. But Ravishing Rick Rude was one of my main inspirations into getting into the wrestling business, so to speak.
Excellent. So what actually helped bring you from the fandom to the actual industry itself? How did you get started?
Well, ever since I can remember, I've always loved professional wrestling. I always watched professional wrestling. I got to an age where I was getting tired of doing backyard stuff and I wanted to go pro, and I started attending some indie shows in California, and I got to talking with some of the guys and got a card, and next thing you know, I'm giving them a phone call and I'm heading down 5 days a week to train.
Excellent. That sounds like a really old school way of sort of getting involved in the business.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's interesting, when you talk to the younger wrestlers today, it's usually a case of they filled in an application form online and before you know it, they're doing training lessons. So do you feel like you're one of the last countrymen in that regard?
To a certain extent. I mean, when I trained in a backyard with professionals, of course, and it was the middle of winter in California, and it was cold and it was raining and we didn't have cover, and we learned the hard way back then. 2005 isn't that long, but whatever.
I was going to say, I imagine you didn't dive straight into deathmatching. I mean, what was your sort of early career like? I mean, were you more of a traditional wrestler, or did you kind of go onto the hardcore side of things pretty quickly?
Well, I went into the deathmatch aspect pretty much right away. I mean, I refereed for about 10 years.
Yep.
And then I just transitioned one day. I'm just, you know what, I kind of want to get in the mix with the death matches, and my very first match was a death match, and pretty much death matches from then on out.
Is that because of your sort of backyard influences? Is that where you sort of started experimenting with sort of hardcore and deathmatch elements?
Kinda. When I was doing the backyard stuff, it was all hardcore. We didn't implement any thumbtacks or barbed wire or light tubes or anything like that. We just did hardcore stuff when I was doing backyard. And then I followed death matches. That's one of my niches, was following death matches. Big Japan, and the United States stuff with CZW and IWA Mid-South, and it's always been something I've been fascinated with. It's just the deathmatch side of it. So
I wanted to sort of dive a little deeper into that. I mean, what is it that you find so fascinating? I'm curious as to what encourages a wrestler to go, do you know what? I'm going to become a deathmatch wrestler. What is the appeal? Why become a deathmatch wrestler over, say, a traditional professional wrestler, for lack of a better term?
Probably because I hate myself. I mean,
Okay.
in order to be a deathmatch wrestler, you got to kind of hate yourself a little bit. Like, you can't just go out there and be like, oh, I'm going to roll around in light tubes and glass and thumbtacks and barbed wire. You got to kind of have a little bit of inside anger going on, and a battle within yourself.
Interesting. So when you meet other deathmatch wrestlers, which obviously you have, and you've obviously competed against a large number of deathmatch wrestlers, do you find that there's a lot of similar sort of personality traits amongst all of you, and sort of going off of what you were just saying about perhaps having that little anger inside of you?
Oh yeah, we're all pretty much one and the same. I mean, all deathmatch guys do it for that love of, the bleeding and that inner self-loathing. So we're all pretty much kind of on that same even kilter, which is why we all get along so well.
Obviously one thing I was really happy for Deathmatch Down Under is that when they put the tickets on sale for this show, they actually sold out very, very quickly. We've got a packed building here tonight, and I'm sure that's adding to your nerves here tonight to perform at the best of your very abilities. But obviously I think it's fair to say that there are obviously going to be fans out there who isn't sure on the whole deathmatch thing. I mean, how do you explain to a fan of wrestling why deathmatch is so important and so beautiful to you?
It's an art form, is what it is. You can't just go out there and do your thing. You've got to create art when you're out there, and it's art. So it's art.
Tell me a little bit about UGWA, and specifically its championship. You are the Total Violence Champion for UGWA, and obviously when we first met and you came down, we were obviously filming a few interviews on the run up to this event. Obviously you were very proud of that championship, and obviously in many of the interviews you were talking about why this championship was so important to you. That championship, what does it mean to you?
That championship means the absolute world to me. I got with UGWA and they had dabbled in death matches, and I was talking with the promoter and we got together and he's like, let's start a deathmatch division, something that Northern California hadn't really seen. And then we created the Total Violence Championship, and it was the first deathmatch championship in Northern California. And just having that and building that whole Total Violence division and the Total Violence Championship it's like a baby to me.
The introduction of a deathmatch division, in your opinion, how did you think that affected the reputation of UGWA? Did it evolve the reputation? Were there some concerns? And did it bring in a sort of a new breed of fan to the promotion?
Oh, it definitely brought in a new breed of fan. I mean, they always had a really strong following that loved the blood, and there would always be some kind of blood on the show with the hardcore wrestling and stuff like that. And they bring barbed wire here and there, and I mean, the fans were already there, but we made them fall in love with what we were doing, which is what it was all about from the get.
Awesome. I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Joel Bateman. He's someone who actually, although you're competing in a rather gruesome competition here tonight, you're defending your championship, and I know you'll die for that championship.
Oh, definitely.
You and Joel Bateman, you are actually friends.
Yeah, he's actually a really good friend of mine, I don't want to say best friends, but we're kind of up there. We're close with that. He was one of the first people I talked to when I got down here, and I rode to a show with him, and we got to talking and stuff, and I mean, he's a really good guy. Joel is and I'm going to feel really bad for what I have to do to him tonight. But I mean, that Total Violence Championship's on the line, and I'll be damned if I'm losing.
I was going to say, how would you feel? Joel Bateman's going into this contest against his friend, against you, Gweedo, and he wants to win that championship to almost effectively put that stamp of approval on Deathmatch Down Under. How are you going to feel? I'm not saying you are, obviously. How are you going to feel if you lose that championship tonight?
Probably won't feel anything because I'll have to be dead. Like, there's really no questions about it. I mean, he wants that title from me. He's going to have to seriously hurt me. He's going to have to make sure that I'm not breathing.
Excellent. Well, I say excellent, but I guess let's move away from that a little bit. And obviously, you have moved to Australia now.
Yes.
You are planning to stay here permanently.
Yes,
is my understanding.
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Why the move to Australia, and what did you know of the scene before you came over, if anything?
Well, I met my fiance. I met her online playing video games, and one thing led to another. I came down here for a visit, and I was just gonna, stay down here for a couple of weeks, and things happened back home in the States, and I just ended up staying here, and then COVID hit, and now here we are.
Fantastic. So have you heard a lot of the Australian scene before coming out here?
When I was planning my trip out here, I started to investigate a lot more and to see who was doing what and what kind of matches they were having, if there was anything deathmatchy, anything hardcore. So I did a little bit of investigating.
Awesome. So based on that investigation, have you developed any kind of sort of bucket list for your time here in Australia?
Not really.
Too early?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of too early for that. I mean, there's guys here at Deathmatch Downunder that I would, of course, love to get in the ring with. Mad Dog being one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been following him since I learned I was coming here, and he's definitely one. Caveman Ugg. There's definitely guys on my bucket list, but to have like a bucket list, not really.
I was going to say, I mean, and that's fair, because I remember when I first came here from the United Kingdom, and obviously you're joining this brand new, exciting world of wrestling that you didn't necessarily know about. And I'll tell you one thing, you are going to love it, because you're going to meet more people, you're going to meet more future opponents, and then you're going to start developing that wish of, that guy's amazing, I want to face him. And I know tonight, I imagine you'll be peeking through the curtain as you watch all the other deathmatch competitors here tonight.
Oh, definitely. I'll definitely be keeping my eye on each and every one that's going in there and dancing with death. I mean, I'll have my eye zeroed in on them.
Fantastic. One thing I think is really interesting about Deathmatch Downunder is there are a lot of people here who, they've never had an opportunity to do a deathmatch before. Like, there's a lot of people backstage, I guess they've never even considered it before. What would you say to someone who perhaps is younger and sort of they've just started their journey into wrestling, and they came to you because obviously they respect you as a deathmatch wrestler? What advice would you give to somebody who wants to become a deathmatch wrestler? What's those words of advice to help them start out?
Make sure you hate yourself, because you're going to put your body through absolute hell. The scars are real, the pain is real, the blood is real. If you want to get into deathmatch wrestling, you've got to really be mentally prepared for the deathmatch.
I guess it was a silly question to ask. Is deathmatch something you can kind of dip your toe into, or is it something where you're all in?
No, you need to go all in. You could dip your toe and play with a weapon here or there and see what you feel about it, but if you want to be a deathmatch wrestler, you need to go all in, balls to the wall.
Well, Gweedo, thank you very much for your time here today.
Yeah, no problem.
Good luck with your match later, both for your sake and your opponent's sake.
More for his sake.
Well, yeah, there's a part of me that wants you to escape with as least cuts and bruises as humanly possible, but I suspect that's a waste of energy at this point.
Oh, I'm definitely prepared to carve my body up.
There you go. Well, Gweedo, thank you very much. Good luck tonight. The UGWA Total Violence Championship. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been Snapmares.